right. Well, welcome you guys to our very first meeting of the Pure Feminine Book Club. I don't think it's a working title. I like the title, but it might be working. Who knows?
Who knows?
Um, so I guess we can just go ahead and dig in. I was listening to the preface in the first chapter again today. I just feel like I have to read or reread and re-listen to this book like
Yep.
almost every day, every other day, because it's so deep. It's hard to kind of get into it. Hey, Griffin, by the way, I see you up there. Um, this concept of the Shakespeare Macbeth, I actually never knew what it was really about. I just knew that everyone was referring to a woman, a wife, but I didn't realize the wife was Lady Macbeth and the husband was Macbeth. I
Right.
had no
Same.
idea.
Same. Yep.
And so now I'm like, oh my God,
Yep.
these are two people that are inside one person.
Yep.
That's bananas.
And I think that once we really grasp some of these concepts of what you just said, it's like I have to go back and reread a lot of this stuff because I was reading them as flat stories.
Right.
Um. So yeah, it's super interesting.
And I do feel like it's like you're reading it flat as a story, but then all of a sudden you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, am I the main character? Is this about me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
tell me from your notes what was really speaking to you out of these two. I'm going to call them chapters, but it's the preface in the first.
Yes, yes, that's what I had read. Well, I mean, like you just said, I just wanted to read this first little snippet. Um, it says this book is about the taking the head off of an evil witch.
Yes.
Lady Macbeth, glued to the sticking place of insatiable power, unable to counter, countenance failure to the point of rejecting life, will serve as a symbol of the woman robbed of her femininity through her pursuit of masculine goals that are in themselves a parody of what masculinity really is. So that to me kind of says it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Um, and it's about women, how we're living in this patriarchal world. And we don't even realize, we all have the feminine and the masculine in us. It's not male, female. It's feminine and masculine energies, which everybody has inside of them. I think that's the first concept people really need to make sure we're not talking about male, female sexes. Um, but how we are in many of us, I know I have been because I went forth into the corporate world my whole life. We are masculine energy forward. And I didn't even ever really focus on my feminine side
Right.
uh, until
Right.
my body kind of said, you're done. Like I went way too far with, being in the corporate world and actually trying to do it all.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. And let me just break through because Griffin just asked what we're reading, and we are reading Addiction to Perfection, and it's this deep psych analysis of just how to get a balance between the male and female inside one person. Now, us being two females, we're always looking at it from the feminine point of view. But this is about male and feminine energy. Um, and the other part about it is what you were saying in terms of like when we're going out to work, when we're checking off lists, when we're saying this is going to get done come hell or high water, like this is a woman grasping on her masculine side. And it's funny because I always do feel like I'm wanting. I feel like it's like, okay, I've checked all the boxes, I've done all the things. And the main thing that hasn't been done is going to my female side, which is my major, it's
yeah,
not my
feminine,
minority.
feminine.
Feminine.
Yep.
What did I say?
Female. Because
Oh,
female would be
feminine.
the sex.
It would be the sex itself. Oh
Yeah,
God. All the gender stuff is like,
yeah.
it's bananas.
We have to make sure we're talking about energy, feminine and masculine
We're talking
energy.
about energy.
Yep.
And so this taking the witch, the head off of the witch in and of itself, there's like deeper findings within this book about the fact that, at the very least, but I think we both have this side. Did she mention that both men and women have this negative mother dealing with? So it's like you have your true self that you kind of tamp down, and then you have the roles that you're playing in life using the feminine side and the masculine side, depending on which, having them fuel your egos and stuff like that. And then there is this negative mother
Hmm.
that you are constantly fighting. To me, I always think it's the voices in my head, those voices that you hear that say, maybe you're not good enough, or it's love bombing you, or it's, whatever that case is. It's the manipulative, the self manipulative spot kind of
Yep.
a thing.
Yep. Oh, the
And
voices in the head.
that's pretty crazy. So it's starting off like that. Okay, let me just see. We have Pamela here, and it looks like Pamela's going to try to jump on. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, she's going to make it. Pamela's going to make it on because Pamela has a lot to say. I noticed that she had a lot in her comments as well. I'm trying to see there are a few other spots. Let me look here. Hang on a second. Of what people said. Okay. So Pamela, when she does, she will get on at some point. She said, she reread the first paragraph of the preface of Addiction to Perfection, and it seems 40 years later, she's still rereading it like it's new, like it's the Bible. It guided her on a journey of her own healing and integration. And now in the foothills of turning 70 in February,
Hmm.
wow,
Wow.
she's still reading this book.
That's
Um,
amazing.
isn't that wild?
Yeah.
Um, let's see, she wants to continue her own healing, but her focus and intention is to support and guide others as we journey through these critical moments in world history. And basically saying that, you know, the human story, the individual story needs to be told here.
Yep.
It's got to be part of the shift, which is something you and I have been talking about,
Yep.
because we do feel like we're at a brink, right?
Yep. Yep. And it's about the human transformation. It's about what's happening inside of us,
Right.
which is reflected in the external world.
Um, we have somebody who put, let's see, the chapter. Well, this is not the chapter we're working on, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. What spoke to her, the chapter Through Thick and Thin stood out. And I'm going to see if I can read these pages without my glasses. I
Mm.
cannot read these pages without my glasses, but it's page 62, so it's far in.
Mm.
Um, this has to do with the loyalty that you have to the mother. And basically she goes very deeply into anorexia and bulimia, as well as sort of an OCD within it. I don't think you can have either one without it, to be
Mm.
honest. And there's stuff about like swallowing the mother,
Mm.
like taking the bits and bites and cutting it up and cutting the mother up and then swallowing it. I told somebody one day, I said, you'd be surprised. I think we were talking about the Demi Moore movie, but I was talking about it with a few other people and they thought it was really, gratuitous and horrifying. And I said, but taking that into consideration, a woman's mind is that horrific. Like we think like that,
Yeah,
but we
that
don't
movie was
talk
it
about
was
it.
horrifying, but it was a great depiction of what goes on
In a
inside the
woman's mind.
minds. Yeah.
Yeah. And much of it, we don't act on it, but at the same time, we're clearly holding in and using with food, eating,
Yep.
these horrendous feelings that are going on inside of our bodies. And it's absolutely bananas. It's just absolutely bananas.
Yeah, the
I'm looking,
relationship to food and the body through all of it
yeah.
is quite interesting.
And I almost, it's just this oh, hold on a sec. We have Rosemary just had a comment. Would that be women's mind because of trauma? You know what? I'm going to say yes. I also think, again, it just goes back into the point that I do think this is for both male and female. And it's easier for us to talk about the female, but I do think that men have their way of also utilizing that masculine ego. And I don't mean the one that goes, ooh, I'm tough or
Yeah.
whatever. It's just, it's, they have the same level of pressure within a different role. They are expected to go out and get that money, get
Yep.
that food, get that, only to have women come in and be like, I'll do your job too, you know? But then at the same time, we now have these, merging of genders and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, well, I can do rings around a stripper pole. You know what I mean? Just these little, and it's like, wow, how are we going to get a rein on all this stuff? Because a lot of it is our identity. But going back to what Rosemary is asking, um, definitely trauma related. If anyone hasn't seen it yet, I think you should see In Utero. I think you should see In Utero and back it up and piggyback it with a documentary called Witches. I know it sounds ridiculous. It's the latest one. It's on Mubi, MUBI app. And in in the movie In Utero, it breaks down the chemicals, the chemical reaction that happens, a physical chemical reaction that happens while the mother is under stress. And stress could mean being stuck in traffic and needing to get to work. You do
Mhm.
that enough every day. Well, you do it twice a day at least, maybe 3 times to get to lunch, and you're pregnant, those chemicals go into the baby and it already is, it's growing a baby in trauma with trauma. The baby is like, I said this the other day, that the baby is almost like a prisoner of war if the mother is constantly fighting anything or anybody. So imagine, it's a one night stand and you've got this baby, and then, the father is like, I guess I'll do it. But then the mother is like, I wish I could abort it. Like, all these conversations are happening non-verbally with chemicals in the baby as
Mhm.
well as verbally, because we all know you get to a certain point and you start going back and forth because this isn't a couple. You're not a couple. You're doing it for this baby. But then the question is, what are you doing? What are you
Mm.
doing?
Yeah. And it's so so back to Rosemary's question about trauma. I just want to say about trauma is that trauma is so multifaceted, um, that you're saying that it can start in utero, it can start pre-verbal, um, it can be, childhood trauma, which gets talked about a lot, but I actually think that it's trauma, just being in the society is what a
Yes.
lot of it is. Like as soon as we like go into school and then all the pressures, and as we go along, and I recently learned that a lot of my trauma was when I went through puberty, that I never really acknowledged that that was traumatic for me. That all of a sudden I, got boobs, and all of a sudden I gained weight, and all of a sudden I'm like, what is this? And I was a highly sensitive little girl, and I learned to, I didn't want anybody like looking at me in this new body that I had. So I learned to go intellect forward. So I learned to live in my mind.
Mm.
And the mind, I learned to live actually more in a masculine way. I didn't embrace my femininity. Um, so, to Rosemary's question, to me, that is trauma. And it was trauma that I never thought about before, let alone, real deep trauma. If you had trauma in your household, or, if you happen to have um, rape or anything else that's really a tremendous trauma. So there's a whole scale of what trauma could be, and then what their neuroses and what it causes in the mind from that point forward. So it's and trauma it can sometimes seem like it wasn't that big, on the outside. Oh, that wasn't that big a deal. What's your problem? It it was The trauma is about how you experienced it.
Yeah.
So me going through puberty and not feeling supported by my mother, and I felt shame. It was about my experience of that situation, and then how it impacted me the rest of my life.
And I think that's another big, I'm glad you brought up shame. That she really covers a lot about shame in this book. And
Mhm,
I have to say, shame is like the number one killer of the human spirit. And
mhm,
it's not even real. It's like not a real, it's a
right.
faux feeling. We made it up. We made
Yep.
it up. Society made it up.
Yep.
And they put it on the parents. Like the reason why there's a nuclear family, like there's always this advertised, not to say that the Bible doesn't say it, like there are other reasons for this couple to create this child in an appropriate way. But society really loves the nuclear family because the nuclear family instills these authoritative behaviors. If I tell you to do this and you do it, sort of out of fear and shame. And so society builds up what shame is. And after a while, I started catching on because there'd be all these laws about sex, sexuality, sexual related things, which yes, there are some very like, why, we wouldn't want to have that. It seems a little animalistic, blah, blah, blah. But then to be in people's bedrooms and like it just kind of got out of hand or always have been out of hand, but I started noticing. And then I realized you put that, so all of these like human behaviors are against the law. And then they're not actually teaching us, however, as we grow up, they're not teaching us how to use our bodies. They're teaching us how to walk and talk, add, subtract, some
Yeah.
times
Then we go
tables.
to school, and then it's all about this.
That's it. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. And then all of a sudden, there's stuff against the law that you're not clear. It's like, well, where's the line on this?
Mhm.
Or about controlling our own bodies. I'm allowed to make decisions about my own body. However, I don't know a whole lot about my body. I'm like, I
Right?
actually don't know anything about it. And
We
I don't
don't.
know
We
how my,
instantly go here.
exactly, it's all logical, but
Mhm.
it connects. When you have a thought, then your body kicks in.
Yep.
And so it's like, how does that work? And how does that work with these different egos, personality traits, all this stuff, these emotions? How do we generate these emotions that create chemical reactions in
Mhm,
our body?
mhm.
Because once we have that down, we can actually work this thing like a stick shift.
Yep. I I've recently been saying that we don't learn how to be human. Like,
No,
we don't even know how this whole body is made up and how the mind impacts the body, and like we
right.
we don't learn how to be human. We instantly go into school to be taught, this linear thinking. Is pretty crazy. Rosemary just said too, I can relate to the trauma of womanhood. It definitely wasn't embraced. It was seen as a shameful and less than. Exactly.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
I'm talking about.
yeah.
So we go through that change, and if we're not supported, we have to deal with it. and we're dealing with it all in our minds and our bodies. And I really believe, because I really see now how that experience impacted the rest of my life, even to this day. Like, I'm acknowledging it, and I'm 54 years old, and I
And
never thought about it like that before.
I also feel like when men are coming into this world, they are immediately told that they are not to have a feminine feeling
Mm,
or something
yep,
that would be considered but it's part of their body though.
yep.
And so you're supposed to smash this down,
It
and
all gets
everybody asks
smashed
like,
down.
why are they so angry? Why all
Yep.
this anger? Why are they? It's because from the get, women are made to feel ashamed and in service. We're supposed to be in service. We're supposed to be submissive and then at the same time completely ashamed. But we're supposed to feel submissive. And I'm just saying this in sort of the general heterosexual concept. We're to be submissive to men to make them feel like they're kind of the king of the road there, most likely because half of their personality must be completely buried and tamped down.
Mm,
God forbid they're gay. God forbid.
yeah, yeah,
It's bananas. So to have a feeling, to express a feeling
yeah.
is simply crazy. And so that's where all this sort of bananas, the horror show in our minds
Mhm,
kind of comes from. Part of me thinks that women have a double duty. Um,
mm,
because I'm just going to say it. It's the fact that I don't know if it's a double duty, but the thing is, there are men out there and there are women out there, but both sexes only come from one sex. And so therefore that child is being, I want to say gestated, but that means you eat something, but they're cooking in there. They're cooking in this woman. And so even if the woman gives the baby away, that child, that mother, that vessel is still, and I don't want to say responsible in a way like, oh, well, we know what to do. But the bottom line is that temple, that vessel is nurturing that child emotionally, mentally, physically, everything.
mm.
Everything that's happening outside of that mother is affecting that child inside.
Yep, and that doesn't really get, like, I wish I would have been trained on that when I got pregnant, because I look back to, like, oh my gosh, I know I had a lot of negative thoughts, or I know I was stressed at work, and I'm thinking, wow, how did that impact my children? I wasn't conscious at the time. All this information wasn't out there, um, to really let us know how much our thoughts and our emotions and everything were impacting the child in utero,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And to just piggyback on Rosemary, it's what I was explaining before. It makes men feel emasculated. I also feel like that's why it seems like having the perfect wife who's dressed I don't know, appropriately, what's appropriately, but dressed in that way and looking cute, sexy, being ready, having the drink. Now, granted, I personally think that's very romantic, but not as a like my job. But imagine that that's not enough. When they look at that and it's like, here you go. You have someone that makes sure everything is completely taken care of, you want for nothing. And they are still feeling like they're missing something, they're emasculated in some way if they're not happy with that. And I totally agree. I'm just like, there's an empty spot there. There's an empty spot.
Yeah,
Um,
and we, because of this patriarchal society that we've grown up in, and this has all happened, like, unconsciously, like, we, like, grew up, and like, when I was in high school, it was like, "Oh, we're gonna fight for our women's rights, and I'm gonna go out and get a job," and so women just plowed through, and we fought for our rights, rightly so, but I feel like we've gone from way over here to like way on the other side.
Yeah.
Where we're so strong and we're so in our masculine that we do emasculate the men that we're with
Yeah.
without even realizing it. All of this stuff is happening unconsciously. But I think that this imbalance is really what's a lot, the underbelly
Mm-hmm.
of what this world is struggling with right now.
I also feel too that when we go, because the problem is we're so up into the masculine selves of the feminine body. Again, it's like we can't cry at work. We can't, we get offended when a guy comes around the office and acts ridiculous.
Yeah.
But, but, there's all of this, like, I can't feel like it's a literal, I cannot be feminine right now.
Oh
This
yeah. The
cannot
thing in the
happen right
work was always, oh no, did you do the cry? Did you cry? Oh no, you did it. You did the cry. And it was like a horrible thing that women would sit around and talk about when
now.
you're
Of
upset
course.
about something. If you,
Well, she cried about it. I'll
yeah,
never forget this guy said at my job once, there was like I ended up quitting, but I quit for several reasons. It just wasn't a good job for me, wasn't a good location, like it was a million things. And for me, I held all that stuff in. So of course, the least, once something actually happened, I got to use that as an excuse to be like, oh, I'm leaving. But this other guy had said to me, he goes, oh, I heard, I can't remember these people's names. I heard he yelled at you really, really, really loudly and you got upset. And it was all I could do not to fly across the table.
yeah.
But we don't normalize the fact that when you go to work, you do have a feminine pathway that could work.
Well, we don't shut off our emotions. Like
You know what I mean?
we don't shut off a part of ourselves. We have to show up whole.
Exactly.
It's so
Exactly.
crazy.
And we're just a different, so that's like, it's like, I don't know, it's like there's a dog fight and a cat shows up. The cat's not going to fight like a dog. The cat's going to fight like a cat. And I've seen dogs and cats fight.
Mm,
Sometimes it's fair, sometimes it's not. And it
mm.
depends on who wins. So that's the biggest thing about it is that, we could show up as ourselves and still do the job. We're just going to do it differently.
Yeah, yeah. So that's been my question. I've been out of the workforce for a while now, and I've been going through this real strong internal transformation, and I'm no longer masculine forward.
Mm-hmm.
Psychedelics really turned me upside down and all around, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting getting my feet back on the ground, and I'm like, I'm not who I was. And when we talk about this, this topic, I realize it's because I don't have the masculine brain, the masculine thinking that I did. And I'm not sure how to go back out there. I want to lead with my feminine.
Right.
And I don't know anybody that's emulating that. Or I don't know. I'm a little confused
Yeah.
on we need both. We need both the
Yeah.
masculine and the feminine. Um, but I'm still trying to figure out myself what that means for myself because I want to make sure that I don't go out too strong in the masculine again. So Rosemary's asking, do you think the emotions are denied, which makes all the crazy in the mind? Um, I do. That's a great question, Rosemary, because I recently went through something where I got really angry at my poor husband. And it was all stemming from him denying my emotions.
Mm. Mm.
And we're still working through that because my emotions were denied as a child. And I've always been one that's had big emotions. So it was too much I was always too much, right? So I never had the help of regulating my emotions. Um, and my emotions were thought of as bad. Um, and so my emotions were denied, which caused a whole trickle effect, through my life. And then my husband, um, he was traumatized as a child, and he's actually a lot in his feminine because he's actually pretty really good at talking about his emotions. But he had so much trauma inside, he couldn't handle my emotions either. So let's just keep stuffing those emotions until hello psychedelics, and it like all comes like pouring out because psychedelics won't allow those emotions to stay stuffed down anymore, right? We got to come up and we got to deal with them. But anyway, back to your question, Rosemary. That I went a little cray cray because of being denied my emotions. I was so angry, and I kept trying to say, if you would just acknowledge me, that's it. If you would just acknowledge me, acknowledge my feelings, acknowledge my emotions, and then I'm fine. But that, um, what's the word? When our emotions and our feelings get denied, then we have to repress,
Yeah.
and then they like fester. They're going to come out sideways somehow, right?
Yeah. I also think too that men marry, just like personally, I married my mother a couple times. Um, but they say women marry their fathers, and I definitely think that men see something of their mother in the women that they marry. And
Yep.
so think about the fact that as they were growing up all their lives, they were constantly just trying to keep mom quiet, just trying to keep her happy. That's one thing we have as children, is that due to the stress, like we know in the womb, the stress that our mother went through. Even though we don't know it consciously, we know it unconsciously. And so
Mm,
there is a hard wire that says, just do what she says, or just try to
mm,
figure out how to calm her down, get
mm,
her calm. You're already prepped before you come out of the womb
mm,
as trying to protect your mom from everything that's coming down onto her.
mm,
And so, especially the sons have a special mother bond.
mm,
There is something going on there. But at the same time, me as a mother, when I look at my kids, and then me as a daughter, when I look at my mom, I'm like I've got like two horns here. And so I am this mother, but then I am this daughter that's like this woman, like how I ate. I was thinking about this the other day. I used to just eat because it was just a constant. Are you going to eat this? Are you going to eat this? It's better for you to do this, and blah, 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 blah. And it was all about food, and most of it was negative. It was easier for me to just say, "Give me a bowl." Just yeah, yeah,
mm,
yeah, and then eat it. Eat it all. Don't leave a bit, because I'm gonna hear this, and I don't want to hear it. But that was like at 45 years old
mm.
that kicked in, because it had been 45 years of it.
Wow. And can
That's
you
the
can
whole
you
thing.
imagine, if you could just imagine that school, we would learn how to be human in school. We would learn how to deal with our emotions, and we wouldn't be dealing with what you're just saying at
Right,
45 years old.
right, right.
Like,
And
it's
talk about like not being acknowledged. It's like, just to use the same example, Lisa, what do you want for breakfast? Do you want this egg? You know what, Mom? I'm not really feeling eggs. I'm kind of going in this vegan route. I'll
mm,
make something. You sure? Because I have 8 eggs and I can make like 4 eggs, and I have this oil that gonna. And it's no, no, no. There's only so many times.
mm,
By the way, I read this article about vegans, and I hear that they die early. I know this vegan had died at 35, and it was a horrible death because her intestines, blah, 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 as she's making, and after a while, it's just like, I'm only going to be here for X amount of days.
mm,
I'm just going to go ahead and eat it. But mind you, There's 2 bottles of wine in a backpack I hid in my in the bedroom, and I would take breaks. As she'd cook, I'd be like, "I'll be right back, I'm gonna go get dressed." And I would hit like a quarter of the bottle because I'd be like, I just need to make it through like 2, 3 days. And
Wow.
then I'm on a bender. I
So
call it a
you
bender.
had to make yourself unconscious to deal with your mom.
Now, so not only is my mom denying that I just said, I have a way that I eat, but now I'm going to hit that bottle. When I go into that room, I'm going to take nips from the bottle to deny also that part of myself. I cannot be this girl for these couple days. Then I go home and I'm trying to find her, but she's traumatized. She doesn't want to come out now. She's like, "Can I get another 2 bottles of wine, please? Why don't we just get a case from Trader Joe's and then we'll work it out later?"
Wow.
That's that game. All from like a 5-day trip to my mom's house.
Wow. And then that's that part in you, right? So
Exactly.
your protector part, talking internal family systems, your protector part is the wine drinker.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that protector part is saying, "Hey, I'm going to protect you. We're going to drink some wine so that we can like put a little distance between you and your mom.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take care of this for you, Lisa. I got it. We're going to get some wine in here." And little Lisa's the exile underneath.
Yeah.
But as internal family systems, little Lisa needs to be tamped down because if she had to feel all those feelings of all of that situation, um, the system thinks that you would take the whole system down because it would be emotional overwhelm.
Exactly.
So the wine drinker is like, "I got this."
I got this.
Yeah.
I got
And so
this.
you have to say thank you
Yeah.
to the protector. And that's a real switch
Yeah.
of a lot of the pathology or teaching that's out there, in that, in internal family systems, there's no bad parts because they're all a
Right.
part of you.
Yeah.
And so rather than all this shame,
Yes.
and rather than all the shame of the wine
Yes.
drinking, there was a reason for it.
There's a reason. That's I
There was a
kept trying
reason.
to try to
Mm,
tell people. People do crazy things. People do horrible things, but they didn't just wake up and
right.
say, "I'm going to do this
Yeah.
horrible
Yeah.
thing." There's a reason behind it.
It's a symptom.
It's a symptom. And
Yep.
I don't want to leave out Rosemary. I just want to
Yep.
read out that she put that you also married a narcissistic, which usually they do come like that. It's like the woman's the borderline, the male's a narcissistic, eating it all, then got hit for weighing too much.
That's
And
awful.
I didn't necessarily get, I don't, I have to go back in my mind a little bit to see if I actually got hit for being. I remember getting, there's something down when I was young. I ate a stick of butter once for
Oh my
one,
gosh.
yeah, for one potato. And I was very young. I was like 11 or something, and my mother freaked out. But granted, this stick of butter didn't get eaten in front of her face. The stick of butter got eaten when she left me home for, however long, long time. And, latchkey kid, come on. You leave a stick of butter in there, it's really good. Um, um, and yes, thank you for agreeing, Rosemarie. Thank you. And yeah, I definitely felt like accepting the protector, which I'm still catching on to the IFS and the protector or whatever, but I have come to the realization, because I felt a lot of shame all my life for all kinds
Sure.
of things that I've done. Um, I used to just eat a stick of butter. Girl, I would
That's so
melt that bad
interesting.
boy down on one potato, and just with every bite. Um, but that's part of the eating thing. Like I would freak out. There were times in my life where I would freak out, like just everything would just come up. I just felt like the walls were closing in. As a child, I don't remember the child stuff, but I remember teenager for sure. And my mother would see that I was losing it, but also I think that people who are manipulating your situation, they realize that when you freak out like that, it's almost like a psychedelic breakthrough because you're almost on the cusp of seeing the dynamic that's happening
Mm,
in your own mind as well as in your relationships.
mm.
And so she would have a way, because I would start figuring out the truth. I'd be like, this is going on in our life. This is not what's really happening. This is happening. And it would reflect in school. My behavior would reflect in school, and teachers would say, I think I'm going to have to flunk you because of this and that. And it would freak me out. I don't know why, because I never went to school, but it freaked me out. And I remember flipping out this one day, and my mom's like, what is going on? Because I didn't flip out. I was a good girl. I had a lot of sex behind her back that she didn't know about. But I always looked the part, did the part, showed it, all this
So
kind of stuff.
you
Never,
learned, listen to what you just said. You learned early on to put the masks on,
dude.
to put the persona up. But that you learned, you stepped into the false self.
Yeah,
Wow. I mean, and again, like we learn it early on, and then it shapes the rest of our life.
yeah,
Once
yeah.
you step into a persona, once a persona is created, it doesn't go away until,
No,
maybe something like psychedelics.
right,
You
right.
kind of get blown up, and then you're like,
No.
oh dear. Like, no, this can't go on anymore.
And then we get to middle age, and everyone says, oh, they're having a crisis and they're going back to being children. They're just grown children. That's exactly right. And it
Mm,
should not be shamed, and it should not be considered something, oh, look at this grown man acting like a child. The problem is that our growth was stunted at some point.
yep, yep. And then so you
And
not only have to heal, you have to grow up.
you have to take over for being the parent because your
Yep.
parents
You
left
have
you
to
with
grow
whatever they
yourself up.
left you with.
Hmm.
That's
And
it.
you got to remove the shame and all that as well.
That's exactly right, because everyone's going through the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
and there is nothing wrong with it.
Mm-mm.
I mean, yes, we act out, we manifest, we have the tantrums,
Mm.
all that kind of stuff. And Rosemary said, I learned to unemotional because I would be made fun of. Yeah, yeah, same here. I still think about these high school kids who called me fat. I
Mm.
went to I was like a dance, I wasn't like a dancer, I was a dancer, and I just happened to be hourglass. But my waist was that big, y'all. And they used to call me fat because I had boobs and a butt, and all the other girls were like a Twiggy.
Yep.
And I used to pretend like that didn't bother me.
Yep. Yep.
Obviously,
I was called fat in school as well. And it was like as soon as I got the hormones, for whatever reason, my body just went boom. I didn't,
yeah,
it felt like it happened overnight.
yeah.
And
And
then you have
yeah,
to deal with
Rosemary,
it.
we had these, I think we're all close in the same age where we had these working parents or absent fathers with the working mother, and and our needs weren't being met at an extremely young age.
Mm.
Extremely. 3 years old. Do I remember 3 years old? I know I remember 4 years old for sure.
Yeah, I
I
think my
never saw
earliest
my
4.
mom.
Oh,
I
wow.
never saw my mom.
Wow.
There was always a guy, not, it was never, it's oddly, her boyfriends never were
Mm.
like mean to me or anything, but they were always asleep. Like literally asleep, like sleeping off too much to drink or whatever, or um on drugs, like I just happened to have really nice heroin addicts in the house.
Oh
They
my
just were
god.
like asleep. How crazy is that? That
Yeah.
again, there goes that protector. Like, so this is where it goes into the spiritual.
Uh-huh.
There isn't an imaginary situation going on. There is a spiritual connection within yourself,
Mhm.
somehow, some way, as well as within the universe. And there is that thing where they say, God knows how much you can handle.
Mhm.
Somehow, this message came through, and that particular level of abuse was not for me. And I have been just left in these circumstances, and the guys just never did. They looked out for me. And
Wow.
it always goes back to the mother. I think to myself, I wonder if they knew how nuts she really was. And they just thought, she's setting this kid up.
Wow.
Mhm. I don't even know if she knows that. I don't even know
Right.
if it's fair to say that she even knew that. Rosemary was made fun of for having her period in fifth grade. God damn, that's early. And didn't know what it meant because her mom explained it as a menstrual period, so she didn't know why she was being
Oh, wow.
so you figured it was normal.
That's traumatizing.
But you know what I'm thinking too? I was thinking this tonight. I was listening to Joe Rogan talking to somebody, but they were talking about school and these fights that they got into. And I
Mm,
just thought to myself, school is literally set up like a prison environment. It is specifically a prison environment
mm,
that is like a petri dish
mm.
for this shaming of everybody, and I just think that it's a way that
Yeah.
whomever started that, you know, it's a way to create these people to be able to control them for real.
And then you add social media to it now, and it's just
I don't know how the kids do it. How do they do
I
it?
don't because you
I
can't get
would
away
be
from it.
dead.
You're in your bed with, if you're in, have your phone in bed.
I
Um,
would be dead.
I just
I
saw
would.
that Boulder schools just voted to not allow phones in the
Good,
school.
good. Because who needs them? We
Yep.
can go back to the old way.
Yep.
We don't have to have a phone. If everybody was like, let's make sure we're going to be at this place at this time, let's get the plan ready now,
Mhm.
everyone would show up just like they used to.
Yep.
Just like they used to. And Rosemary, your father was an alcoholic and he was a binge eater. My mom was a binge eater. I don't know if she threw up, but my mom was definitely a binge eater. And when things got really bad, her answer to it, I don't know if anybody out there is old enough to know, besides the three of us, Entenmann's cake. So there'd be one chocolate Entenmann's cake and 2 pints of Haagen-Dazs Swiss almond vanilla ice cream. 1 pint was for me. My mom had some. Um, she made sure I ate the whole cake. She made sure I ate all of that. Um, it was really, really bad. Yeah, and the period thing was bad. The period thing was bad for me. It wasn't horrible, but I heard horrible stories about my grandmother and how she treated my mom and my aunt. Um, but I only heard horrifying stories. It's always horrifying. It's just really crazy to look back
Yeah.
and to see all the things that I was told that I should not only be ashamed of, but be absolutely horrified about. It was just bananas.
Mm.
And now something happened. I don't know. I was running around. It was really hot. It's New York City. And I took a shower, but it was just horrendously hot. And my aunt comes up to me in the apartment. We're in the apartment. It's not like we're out somewhere. And she comes up, but I had been out and came back in. And I go to the bathroom and I realize I'm like, God, I don't feel fresh. I think I'm gonna take a shower in my mind. She runs up to the bathroom. She's like, before you go in there, I just I hate to tell you this. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, what is the matter with you? She goes, well, I kind of smelt a little something when you came through the door.
Mm,
I was like, yes, I've been out. It's hot. I'm going to take a shower. And she's like, I was afraid to tell. I didn't want you to feel a certain way, blah, blah, blah. And this whole, and it's just so funny. Just that moment, I realized
mm,
how many things I was literally screamed at about in
mm.
some negative way
Yep,
about the human body
yep,
and what it normally does.
yep,
This
yep.
is normal.
Yeah, there's so much shame, so much, and some of it is verbal, with external people, but a lot of it is a felt sense,
Yeah,
um, especially highly sensitives, and like the felt sense of shame
yeah,
of whatever that is. Everybody has like their own experience of that. um some women, whether you're like extra weight, so it's shame of the extra weight, but even
yeah,
like women who are normal weight, they can still have such body shame just because of how they
yeah,
feel or what they were taught, or maybe somebody said something to them, and then it changed. Like, people say awful things,
yeah.
especially in high school and junior high, right? It's just, I humanity, like,
I know.
why are we so awful to each other? And it starts young.
Yeah, and I think it's an endorphin thing. It's a, let me project how I feel about myself onto somebody else.
Yeah.
Because it really is the quickest, it's only temporary, but it is the quickest way. When you not only you project something onto someone else, but there is an endorphin that people get. There's
Mm,
an endorphin hit that people get when they humiliate someone else.
yep.
But then the person being humiliated oddly gets a certain endorphin hit as well. The act of feeling victim, feeling ashamed, because it's like this opportunity of, well, I can do better. I'm being shamed, but I can do better for that person. I can work and be a better person, and then I can come back and get them to validate me.
Mm,
But really, it's not the validation that they want. They want to be reshamed again. That's the only way they know how they can be loved in some kind of way. It's really
mm,
wild. And it's why I started reading this book, because it really goes into the depths of these areas, and it surrounds the bulimia and the anorexia and the drinking. It's addiction. It's
yep.
all addiction, and it
Yep.
comes from the same place. The one
Eh,
thing I just want to say that she mentions in this part is the importance of the tension, holding tension between the negative and the positive, the
yep.
male and the female. Sorry,
Mm,
the masculine and the feminine.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um, if you can hold that tension, and I think sometimes we see that tension or we feel it, and we immediately go, "Oh, that looks too hard. I'll just eat a cake. Let me just eat this cake. We'll start it tomorrow."
Hmm.
There's something about holding, and that's sort of the job of the ego, is to kind of keep the pendulum in the center.
Yep.
Don't wave too much this way, don't wave too much that way.
Yep.
Keep it right here.
Yep.
And we don't have any strength in that. Going back to you wanting to be more in your feminine, you got to build up that strength. We have to build up the strength in our major
Mm,
feminine, and use that masculine for what it's meant to be used for,
right.
without overusing it, without
Yep.
stringing it out.
Do you guys, Rosemary, or you, Lisa, do you know of a woman that emulates a good balance between the masculine and the feminine that's out there in the public eye right now? Is there like somebody to look at?
There's nobody that comes to my mind right here, right now. No,
Mm,
no. I almost like, I want to say Tig Notaro, but Tig Notaro is gay.
mhm, Yeah, I can't think of anybody right now because, like, even like, I don't want to talk politics, but to me, if a woman goes into the politics, she has to go way into her masculine.
Yes. Who's that? This blonde girl whose name eludes me. I want to say she, as a child, she did this TV show, detective TV show called Mars, Laura Mars, or something like that. She's in a show called Good. Oh my God, I can't believe I don't remember this girl's name. She's on everything. She's very feminine. Her husband is Dax somebody. He's an actor, but it's like she comes off as this really goody two shoes, very balanced, really good actress. She's been in a million things. I'll post it later. Um, but her husband is like this raging alcoholic who's not
Mm,
an alcoholic. He's recovered, but a completely different life. So much so that he told her that that he's gonna not date her anymore because she can find a better guy. I have
mm,
no idea why she's with him, but apparently they do seem to have this balanced marriage. Um, she's the only person so far,
mm,
she's extremely feminine. And when her acting brings out
mm,
this masculine side, it almost seems unnatural. It's
mm,
like she's pushing it a little bit. The Good
mm,
Place. There's a show called The Good Place. It's no longer running, but it's on Netflix.
mm,
In that show, she's a little kind of butchy or whatever or streety, and that's out of her league. But
mm,
at the same time, she has a strong she does what she wants to do kind of thing. She has a very
mm,
strong personality, but it's always feminine. She's always in the
mm.
feminine.
You know what'd be
That's
cool? What would be cool is I would love to see who you're talking about, and we could almost have like a little bit of homework, and we could have a whole session, um, and we could our homework could be find women who you think best emulates
I
the
like that.
balance of the feminine and the masculine.
Kristen
And
Bell.
who is it?
Kristen Bell.
Kristen Bell. Let me look it up.
Kristen.
Kristen Bell.
Yeah,
Okay.
Bell.
Oh, she's pretty.
She's extremely feminine. Okay, so let's definitely do that homework. Let's read
Mm.
the next two chapters and then let's do homework on someone that we find that's a strong feminine
Yep.
person who is who's using her feminine. She's very feminine forward. I will send you because I saved a video. She, how these celebrities do their little shorts of whatever they want. But she sat there very feminine, nicely dressed, not too much makeup, but pretty.
Mm,
But then was talking like this intelligent social, she had a social comment about something and she was right on,
mm.
right on about it. And I was like, oh, I got to save that. And I'm going to do a post about that one day. I'll find it, I'll dig it out, and I will send it to you guys. I'll
I
put
think
it in
we
the thing.
yeah, maybe the next time we could use Zoom
Zoom. Let's use Zoom.
so we
Let's
can actually
definitely
see
use
see
Zoom.
Rosemary.
Yeah. Let's use Zoom. Sorry, Rosemary. We were
Yeah,
caught in between of not knowing
yeah,
what to use and
yeah,
also not sure. At the
yeah,
time, we were like not really sure anybody was going to jump on or anything.
yeah,
And so I just said, oh, we'll just use this and we'll record it and then we'll throw it up and
yeah.
people want to read it, they'll read it.
But
Let's see.
I
I've
was
seen the
just
show and
thinking.
didn't notice the
Oh,
feminine.
sorry.
Oh, so Rosemary, the show itself, she really, that's what I was saying is she really wasn't using a feminine forward in that show, but it also you looked very mechanical. Like it just
Mm,
didn't look right on her. I never liked it. I liked the show. It was kind of funny, but it was
mm,
quirky and funny, but they were being silly, so it really didn't come off as masculine. Um, let's see. And then my daughter seems to flow in her feminine. Oh,
mm.
that's good.
That's
Show us
awesome.
how. Tell us how.
Yeah.
Definitely. 100%.
And I think it would be cool to kind of go over like what do each of us think is feminine. Like I'm still
Yeah,
kind of confused, on something. I
yeah,
know some things that are considered feminine, but I
yeah,
don't. And is it feminine forward? Is that the right term? Do I want to be feminine forward or like feminine balance? And like I think each of us might find qualities, feminine qualities, maybe a little bit different. Like
right,
um, just because of our lived experience.
right.
Like and it's such a weird thing when the physical appearance of a body um is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking
Yeah,
about our behavior and how we show up. And of course, looking feminine is nice. But yeah, I think next time we can define feminine and to have a discussion of what that means, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
I'd like to read this to you because this is something that we don't really think about. Linear thinking, this is from the book.
Okay.
Linear thinking does not come naturally to me, meaning the writer of the book.
Hmm.
Moreover, it kills my imagination. This is something that I've really been focusing on because I grew up in a very masculine household, farm family. The feminine really didn't exist except for cooking, and you need to cook and you need to do the laundry, and those feminine roles.
Right.
Um, and then I learned to think very masculine. It was business that was discussed at the table. And I went on to be an accountant, which is like insane because it's not who I am. But after after doing all of this work in the psychedelics, it's very strange that it feels like that linear thinking was an overlay, and
Mm,
it's kind of gone.
yeah.
And so I'm curious on how this overlay, where us women are actually having to behave in a way that's not our natural state of being.
Yes.
And we don't even realize it.
Yeah.
Because she
Yeah.
went on to say, she said, it kills my imagination, linear thinking. Nothing happens, no bells ring, no moment of here and now. No moment that says yes. Without those moments, I am not alive. And so rather than driving towards a goal, I prefer the pleasure of the journey through a spiral. And
Mm.
I ask my reader to relax and enjoy the spiral too.
Oh yeah, the spiral. When she asks us to enjoy it, I'm always like, oh.
But that's our natural way of being, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of this linear thinking.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a lot of our frustration. That is trauma that is
That's
we
trauma.
don't even know.
I can't even flow the way I want to flow. I have
Yes,
to ignore
yes,
every single
yes,
thing
yes,
because, and this is the other thing, is that we're creatives, and a
yes.
creative is not linear.
Right.
You are kind of going through these
Yes.
windy twists and turns, and there's
Yeah.
all this curiosity.
Mhm.
I wanted to just, Pamela was on but didn't say anything, Pamela Joy. And I just want to put, before we like end out, I just want to say what she said. She said, hello, Lisa. It was good to put a face to your name through our brief acquaintance here on Facebook. I appreciate your putting this presentation and discussion together. There is so much about being embodied and how your feelings are the key to being in your body. Your feelings are your strongest connection to your spirit along with your body. Your feelings are your connection to getting your needs met in the world. Ooh, that's it, because that's what all I've been saying.
Mhm.
The profound writing and work of Marion Woodman is very much about connecting to and understanding of our appetites and the apostat. I'm
Hmm.
not sure if that's a word or if it was a typo. With her Jungian background,
Mm.
her work with her analysis and working through her own struggles, she describes brilliantly the maze, it is a maze, the maze we all must go through via all stories, trances, and defense mechanisms we developed as coping mechanisms
Yep.
to work our way through and free ourselves in order to be ourselves. We are the society, so it's up to us to have the wherewithal to find that place to go within ourselves that leads us through to resurrect our genuine humanity back to ourselves in an authentic way. My two favorite Marion Woodman books are Addicted to Perfection and The Pregnant Virgin, which we got. Um, at any rate, I might be in a bit of a different place than everyone here. Still in all, I'd love to listen to the recording when you have completed it. I am also interested in what everybody would like to get out of the group. Meanwhile, keep on. She must be one of the administrators of this
Oh
group.
yeah, and I've got the pregnant version, and
Yeah, I have The Pregnant Virgin.
this is a phenomenal book.
Yeah.
And Rosemary, I don't know. I think we talked about it at one time, about Marion Woodman's book. They are each sentence is thick, in it's so deep, um, that you really have to like read like one page at a time and just
Yeah.
digest it all, right?
Each page is like a homework assignment. Um,
Yeah. Rosemary
um,
said Sue sounds like you have her still finding the true self. That is very true. I feel closer than ever,
yeah.
which feels amazing. But I feel like she hasn't shown up yet.
One thing I could say is that I still, obviously, I still have it, but there was this massive anger. And there were always these blow-ups, like all the time, like Sue Gunner, Susan, she knows me as the lady who's gonna flip the table. Like I was saying
Mhm.
that as like, I swear to God, da, 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 I will flip this table. It was always like that at work. I was always
Wow.
screaming. It was always like that.
Wow.
I've apologized to some people from work, like guys from
Uh-huh.
work that I would like flip out on.
Wow.
Um, and, this is later on, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't know what happened there." But I do, I know what happened. I will tell you, I'm afraid, I'm knocking on wood, I'm afraid to say that those days are long gone. Because I used to prepare. I used to be like, if this happens and I'd run it in my mind, I'd be like, they're gonna get, blah, I'm gonna do this and that and this, throw these
Another
things
protector.
and
You got to name that protector.
so crazy. It doesn't, it doesn't come up anymore. And it makes me feel weird. Like when I think about it, it's almost as if I miss it. Like
Mm.
I'm grieving a little. I'm just like,
Oh, sure.
no,
Because that protector that you're talking about, I think that's a very common one with men and women.
yeah,
Um, be, uh, because it makes that protector, that persona was created at a time when you felt powerless.
yeah,
And so what that protector does is it gets you all in your power and you're like, "Oh, I'm
yeah,
gonna,"
yeah,
but really underneath again is an exile. Um, and obviously a very strong exile, because the stronger that protector, the stronger the
yeah,
exile. It makes you
yeah.
feel powerful. Anger makes you feel powerful.
It's so crazy. And now it's like there's just not a whole lot going on in my life. So there's nothing to be, part of it is there's nothing to need power for. But at the same time, when it's time to do something, it's just like, I can kind of bring in that masculine for a second and be like, stop messing around or stop being lazy or stop avoiding this thing in your life that you should really just be sitting in and relaxing in. Like you're making up excuses. Just
That's
sit
a
in it.
lot of it is avoidance, right?
It's avoidance.
It,
There's a
it's a,
lot of
it,
avoidance.
it's
And so
escapism.
I
Yeah.
every so often I tack on that power and I just go, we could use a little of this for this. It's
Mm.
okay. It's okay. So now I'm learning how to balance, like, if I use this power, like, what are we using it for exactly? Because we got to do something. I got to do something with my life. I got to get a job sometime. I got to, I
Yep.
got to make these, I got to make moves. I got to make moves. But I don't have to flip tables to do it though. Like
No.
we could
I
just,
don't
we
have
could
to
just
flip
relax
tables.
into it and then just go. It's like the stick shift car that the owners of this home left me. They're like, you could drive our cars. You're good with a stick shift. And I was like, who told you that? Who said that? I haven't driven a stick shift in 25 years. So it's like, I've only been here a day, but I was supposed to go to the store today. I didn't go, but I'm going to go to, I was like, all right, we're going to the store tomorrow. We're going to get in the car. And what are we going to do? We're going to do this thing with our hand, and we're going to do this thing with our foot, and
Mm,
we're going to go to the store.
mm.
That's it. Just relax into it. It's not that serious. So it's more
And
serious now, but once I turn the key on and I go, it's not gonna be
yeah,
serious.
yeah,
It's not gonna be serious. It's so
yeah.
funny.
And I was telling you, Lisa, I saw a depth therapist for a little bit,
Right.
and the big thing that I learned from her was pause. Let's get in your body.
Yeah.
What are you feeling? And I could feel myself like, no, no, let me talk. Just let me talk. She'd be like, no, let's check in with you. Let's check in with your body. How are you feeling? And it was amazing how it would totally shift
Yeah.
everything. So what you're
Yeah.
saying is you were avoiding the car, right? And you're getting into awareness, conscious awareness of, oh, I saw that. I caught that. You're trying to avoid that. And then it's like, okay, what's real about this? Let's check
It's the
in.
jittery. Yeah.
And
It's the jittery.
what's the truth on this?
Yeah.
And no, we can do that. Let's not make big drama about this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually did a video. I'm gonna put it up at some point, but it was just me shifting gears. I was like, so I'm gonna get in the car and I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go into first, and then I'm gonna go into second. I might go into third, but I doubt it. And that's it. And I was like, that's really the game here.
Yeah.
And so Rosemary, yeah,
Oh,
Rosemary,
thank you, Rosemary.
you
That's
can't let people label what it is that you're doing. Now, here's what I would say. Take it into account. Like, why would that person see it that way? Maybe, I don't even know. It depends. I wouldn't go too far into the why, but it's just like, they said that. Let me check in. Let me check in with my body. Let me check in with myself. Is there an insecure feeling that I'm feeling? Because number one, it is okay to feel insecure. And sometimes we're being transparent about how insecure, like about this car. I feel insecure about driving this
yep,
car. For
yep,
what? But to say it out loud,
yep,
it's like, okay. And to say it in front of someone, it's like you now have a witness of someone seeing your insecurity and being safe about it and just
yep,
being like, normal, normal
yep,
business,
yep.
normal business going here.
And we've talked
And
about how
then,
important the witness is, right?
yes, yes.
Just having a
Um,
witness somehow telling the story in a safe space and having a witness, I think releases a lot.
yeah, yeah. It releases a lot. And then it kind of, you kind of get it out in the open. I don't know, there's something about the fear or the insecurity or whatever it is. It's almost like a cap on top of something that you
Yeah.
either need to do or need to deal with. And then once you say it, it's like the cap is off. You
Mhm.
still got to deal with it, but it's
Yeah.
like, well, I have nowhere else to go but take care of this business.
Right. And it's
And
different than what women typically go to is their rant and complaining.
yeah,
And you're just going to drag other people down with
yeah,
your rant because you want to be heard.
yeah.
But this space, like you and I going back and forth in all of our stories, they haven't been rants. It's like,
No,
I want to be acknowledged and witnessed. I acknowledge you, I witness you, and then it feels like it's like there's this like release.
yeah. And then it's like, well, step number two, let's get busy.
Let's get
I
on
mean,
with it.
let me handle this. And I think the biggest thing is building the trust of
Mm,
yourself. Even though you may be weak in an area, it doesn't mean you can't build the strength. Of
yep,
course you can build the strength. You can
yep,
learn anything. You can you can be, if you want to be a sprinter, you can train
yep,
and become a sprinter
yep,
if you want to.
yep,
Whatever it is that you have to do to get it, you can do those things and get it and build it up over time. And that's the same as being strong. And so I feel like when you build strength in areas emotionally, and know who you are. The biggest thing is, who are you? And
hmm,
you're not going to know it overnight, but you got to become friends with yourself. You've got to love those different parts.
yep,
Just love them. Know that they're there. They really are looking out for you. There is a reason. And the more you get to know yourself, the more you're able to like kind of tweak here
yep,
and there and then really build on something. And then you have that trust. Once you
yep,
have that trust, that's where the power lies,
yep,
is in the trust with
absolutely.
yourself.
Because then you can stand strong in your knowing.
That's
You
why
don't
we
have to
get
like,
so angry
you don't have
when
to like do all this second guessing.
exactly, when
Yeah,
people are dishonest with us. That's why we get so angry, because we don't even trust ourselves, because we don't know ourselves.
yep,
So it's like, I can't trust this person. I need to be able to trust somebody.
mm,
But
but
unfortunately, you can't trust any,
you're not trusting yourself.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
what that's about.
And
That's what that's
Rosemary
about.
said it, but it usually backfires, and I'm used to people using it against me. That's interesting. So you're saying it's a pattern. Um, so what I've been doing a lot in my life is sitting and recognizing the patterns.
Mm,
What kind of people have I been hanging out with? What is the pattern? And sad enough, I realized that the people, even one of my best friends, what I've allowed in my life, I've allowed people to not treat me the way I should be treated. And it, and, but it was me. It all comes back to me, what I've allowed, because I was insecure. I was in my wounding. And um, I've had to let people go.
mm,
And now I'm being very conscious of, what do I want? What do I desire to show up in my life? Who am I
mm,
really? And, and I need to step into that myself. And then the universe, it naturally, you start attracting
yeah.
that. So I'm still in that process. But yeah, you need to trust yourself, because if you don't trust yourself, you're going to attract people who don't treat you right.
Here's the other thing. There's that. And then I started going in a bit deeper and realizing that, as I start to get into this, that first of all, as I start to shed certain friends that are really,
It
and
is a
here's the
shedding.
other thing. Once you start changing, your friends don't change with you.
Mm-mm.
They stay the same.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's like a parting of the road, and
Yep.
it's just like, this isn't going to work anymore.
It's hard.
And it's never, I shouldn't say never, but a lot of times, there's been a lot of people where it hasn't been a fight. I have just not called them, and come to find out, if I don't call them, they don't call me.
Yep.
So there's that. But the other part of it is things that they were saying to me or ways that they were treating me. I was finding out I was treating myself like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
I was putting myself to the side. I was
Yep.
putting myself last.
Yep.
I'm like, well, let me hurry up and take care of this person's this, that, and the other. And then eventually I can get to my thing. And it's like, nope. Yes, I let go and feel lonely. You will.
Yep.
It won't be long. Part of the lonely thing is you then have to fill that time and space with you getting to know you.
Yep.
You have to start listening to, and that's where kind of the meditation comes in. I hate to
Mm.
tell everybody, sit there and be quiet, write down the thoughts that go through your mind
Mm-hmm.
for no reason. When you're just sitting there and all of a sudden you're getting these like bizarre thoughts, or you start remembering these horrible instances that happened to you in childhood, like they just pop in your head. Start writing that stuff down. Start there and
Yeah.
then read it or don't read it. Sometimes I just write stuff
Mhm.
down. I never read it again. It's the fact of me just doing it. But then also, when they happen, you just go, wow, that child was like dealt like that. And after a while, you start to get to know yourself, and little by little, you give yourself a little love. You just
Mm-hmm.
go, oh, you've been through a lot.
Yeah.
No wonder you picked up this guy who thinks this, or you're friends with that girl who keeps telling you that. You don't
Mm-hmm.
even know what it's like to be told the exact opposite. Look up what the exact opposite is of
Right.
whatever you've been told.
Right.
Look it up. So that's what I did during my lonely times. I'll
And
tell you
the
right now,
the
they don't
lonely
last
time's a
long.
requirement, right?
Yeah,
Like you literally, it's a part of the process. You can't get to know yourself or do that proper internal transformation without alone time.
yeah. Gotta have it.
And you've got, unfortunately, it can last a long time because you need to get very comfortable being alone.
Yeah.
And then
Mhm.
once you get to that point, then you're like, oh, maybe I can be a proper friend, or I can create a proper relationship now. If
Mhm.
you go back out and not operate out of the wounding,
Yeah.
because that's what it all is operating out of the wounding, so you're creating more.
Bowling, I love it. I always say I'm
Nice.
gonna do bowling, and I'm not in a country where there's bowling. If I was in the
Yeah,
US, I would be bowling. I
I know.
would.
I need to find
But they don't have, there's no bowling here.
I
There's
need
no
to find
bowling
a
in
group
these countries. Yeah, we need to find a
to
group.
to go out. I've been wanting to do this, to talk about Marion Woodman, so maybe we just all do it online.
It just for now, at least, at the very least, maybe we can have some sort of a little event where we meet up somewhere in the United
Yeah,
States and
but
do a little something, a
we
little
can have a
weekend.
glass of wine,
It's-
and do a book club
No,
on.
I know how to drink now.
Yeah, yeah.
I know how to drink now.
Uh,
Before it was just like, I'm gonna keep this bottle of wine on tap
yeah,
just in case anything goes down. Can you imagine? Just in case.
that's
Oh my
funny.
God. Nowadays, I just look at people with a straight face and I do smile because I'm not trying to be mean. Like, there's nothing mean about this. And I just don't want someone to be put through any sort of like underlying resentment from me when I know I'm going to have it. And I just look at them and I go, this isn't going to work. I know you thought it would. And I'm so sorry, but it's not. And I want to give you a hug because this must be abrasive, but I gotta go. And
Yeah,
that's the end of that. And the family members, everything. It's just been this like honesty, but not nasty. I've just
that
been like, I really love you, but I don't know what to do with you.
yeah, yeah. Nasty goes away when they in the
It
hands of the
really,
process.
really has.
Yeah,
You know, I see it come up every now and then, but now I have there's this mechanism in my body,
yeah.
literally right here. It's like someone puts a cigar
Mm.
straight through and there's a burning hole.
Wow.
Anger literally has a physical reaction. It physically damages you. It really does.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
insane.
I'm trying to figure it out. I have a friend who, for whatever reason, I'm like so angry. And I'm like, I just asked my husband tonight, I said, can you help me process this? Because I don't like it.
Mm, yeah,
I don't like it. It doesn't feel good. It's damaging me.
yeah.
And I need help understanding it because I'm really angry. And I
And
need
it
to,
does have
it
to do
does not
with
feel good.
I always look at when I feel this against somebody, when I say something in my head, like I'll say like, fuck those guys. Like
Yeah.
even now when I say that, it really, and that's my personality. Like
Yeah.
that's Lisa.
Yeah.
I can barely say, now I think it and I go, don't say it, don't say
Mm,
it, because I don't want, it's a very uncomfortable feeling. Um, but then I have to sit with myself and go, but where is that coming from though?
yeah,
Why
yeah,
is that so upsetting?
yeah,
What is it about you? What is it about that you're doing to yourself? Or what is it about that you're allowing? Like,
yeah,
let's go through, let's scan life a little bit.
yep,
Where's the trigger coming from?
yep. That's
And
where I'm
let's dig
at.
into that.
And
Yeah.
that's it feels so much healthier, even though the anger's not healthy. I don't like it, but I'm being very conscious, saying, I know I need to deal with this
Yeah.
rather than acting out, so I'm
Right.
really trying to like get some help to understand it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's this fine balance of um like really seeing everything for what it is,
Yeah.
and some of it is seeing people for who they are.
I think that's the other thing. Part of it, I think, too,
And myself too,
also,
seeing myself for who I am.
it might be grief. It might be that this is a
I think it
person,
is a lot of grief.
you're with a person that maybe is like not a good match. I mean, it depends, but it could be because I invest like hell in people
Yep,
and go, let me try this, let me try that, let me
yep,
try this, let me try that. And then all of a sudden I just sit there and go, Lisa, you've changed.
yep. And I think maybe that's what it is. Thank you for saying that. I think maybe underneath my anger is grief.
It might be the grief.
We're just not on the same page anymore. And I wanted her to come. I expected to be on this journey with her.
Yeah, I've held some people to that standard. And then I had to like take a step back and go, oh, they're not coming.
Yeah, I'm really sad.
Yeah,
I'm really sad. So thank
yeah,
you for saying that.
you're welcome.
And the amount of anger is crazy, and that's must mean there's a lot of sadness underneath, because
Yeah,
she was supposed to be coming with me, and not, I guess I have to forgive that she's not able to do this work, because I'm not sitting on a pedestal saying I'm better than, but I have changed.
yeah.
I've moved through a lot.
And you have to remember how hard this stuff is to work through.
Mhm.
People look at that as a huge mountain. Addiction is a huge mountain. That's just the addiction part. That has
Yeah,
nothing to do with our true self,
yeah,
going through traumas, past traumas,
yeah,
cleaning up the mess. I mean, we're talking, we've seen each other. That ceremony we were at wasn't it 2 years ago?
yeah. Year and a
It'll
half.
be June. It'll be
Yeah,
2 years
year
ago.
and a half. Yeah,
Dude, that's a long time. And we did a lot of cleanup work before we even got there. And we weren't, I mean, I have to speak for myself. Now that I look back, I didn't even get anywhere. Like I did all this cleanup work and thought I had done all this work and I was still like a lunatic, you
yeah,
know. And so imagine when you go to friends or family or something like that and say, okay, jump on this bandwagon. You better catch up. You got to catch up. It's time to catch up. And they're
yeah.
just like, dude,
And it's not fair. It's I've got to get into the place of it's not
it's not
fair
fair. It's
to
not fair.
ask somebody else to do this work, because I don't even really know what they're dealing with inside,
Exactly.
because I know I was definitely in this place. Everybody's got to do this. Everybody's got to do this work. And I remember somebody saying at one point that, some people just cannot, because it would literally kill them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't mean we have to cater to that.
Right.
There's so many people right now that I love from afar. Um, because at some point I will flip a table. It won't be right away, but about 3 months in,
I wouldn't
yeah.
want to see Lisa flip a table.
Oh my God. I haven't been that angry. Like that last trip to New York, if I didn't have house sits to leave the family home and then, because I would recharge and come back, but I was like, this isn't going to work. there's going to be headlines. They're going to be looking for me because
There's
I
gonna
killed
be
somebody.
headlines.
Like,
Oh my
this is
God.
not happening.
That's
Um,
hilarious.
the other thing too, I want to say is that having this distance does help me, it's kind of to love them in such a way, but also to understand, like we said earlier, it's not really fair what that person went through. Like, I can still say whatever I want to say about my mom or whatever, but the bottom line is, you should have met my grandmother. You know, it's not fair to expect. She's got a lot. And then her mother, she had a lot. And so, what are you supposed to do? You can only do you.
Yeah.
You can only do you. And then you
Yeah.
have to have a certain separation to have the space to love that person
Yeah.
and say, maybe in another life, maybe in 10 years, who knows? But I'm
Yeah.
around when you're ready.
Yeah. I I had a woman call me maybe like a year ago. She wanted me to hold space for her for mushrooms, and I never did. She ended up going off to California and doing ayahuasca. And she's like, I think she's in her lower 60s. And I'm like, that's so brave. You just went off and did it by yourself. She's now
Yeah.
gone twice. And with the truth is, she was really annoying me when she was calling me because she
Mm,
kept wanting my time and she was using my
yeah.
time and I didn't have
Mm,
great boundaries. And so I was learning boundaries. I was like, no, you're not using any more of my time. I gave you the answers. I finally like kind of put the hammer down.
yeah.
Um, so she started out really annoying me. And it's moved to I never held space for her, but now she calls me and she's like, and now we're friendly. We just talk on the phone. She's like, "Did did you did you lose a lot of friends after you did medicine?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's kind of part of the process." You know,
Yeah.
she's really going through it, and it's just like wild.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, this is good. It's like, it's a way, having the boundaries, but at the same time, having a way to be there in some form or space somewhere. People do come back around. That's the whole other thing. I have found in my 55 years,
Mm.
people come full circle back into your
Yep.
life.
Yeah. You just kind of have to leave it alone, right?
Yeah.
Leave things
Leave
alone.
it there. And I also find, when I see something wrong in someone or something like that, like, I don't know, somehow I learn from it. I just take a
Yeah.
step back and I look at it and I
Yeah.
go, oh, that's interesting. And then I find myself not doing the exact same thing. You know how we do? We go, oh, I don't do that, not the way they do it.
Mm.
The way I do it is different.
Mm.
I do see it in a different sphere of my life, but I see it. I go, but I'm still doing the same thing that person's doing.
Oh
No
yeah.
wonder I
Yeah.
was so pissed. This
Yeah.
is sitting here doing this, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
is what it is. We are at an hour and a half, a little over an hour and
Oh,
a half.
yeah. It's a
So
lot.
I'm going to go ahead, unless there's anything else that anyone wants to add. I saw a couple people pop in and out, but I'm going to put the recording, um, and hopefully have some people give any kind of kind words or whatever, any interesting information, to see if there's something we could do for the next one. We'll definitely do this on Zoom. And what are we going to do? We did chapter 1, chapter 2, and 3.
Hmm.
Um, I'm going to be more prepared. Due to this technical issue that I had, I was not able to pull up the book. So I
Uh,
can kind of go through it. I
can you
wasn't able to pull it up.
can you send it? Can you put the book out there?
I'm
The PDF?
afraid to. I
Oh,
kind of will, but I'm
yeah.
kind of thinking to myself, because it's not, I put a link to the book for people to buy it.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But anyone, put it to you this way, anyone who feels they need the book, direct message me.
Yeah.
Um, do that. You could probably direct message me here on YouTube. You can message me, at Zen Nesting Facebook, /Zen nesting. You can message me there. And I'll go ahead and see what I can do, see what magic I can complete. But if you have a hard time getting the book, let me know, and we can do it from there. If there's anything else, I'm trying to think. We'll be a little more structured.
Yeah.
But this is what this book is about. The things that we've been talking about. I mean, it's what this book was about. To
Yeah,
be
so we'll do
honest.
chapter 2 and 3 next time, and then the
Yeah.
little bit of homework is to be on the lookout for who's out there that you think emulates a nice balance of the feminine masculine,
Yeah.
and we could discuss that. Because I also think, like, I thought about today, like this book, it talks a lot about the negative stuff, which is good because we need to, like, the addictions and what's causing it and getting in there and the trauma. But we don't talk enough about our gifts and the
Yeah.
positive things. And that's why,
Yeah.
sort of like the homework of finding somebody out there that's emulating, we've got to start having a North Star towards
Yeah.
what we desire, right?
Agree.
Instead of
Agree.
staying stuck going round and round and round in our traumas.
That's the other thing is as you're working through your trauma, I'm glad you brought that up. As you're working through your trauma, and this is part of that lonely spot, start pulling your strengths. What am
Mhm.
I good at?
Yep.
Because we're always going into, well, I can learn how to do that and I'll do that and get this thing done, blah, 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 as opposed to, well, hang on, what do I already have going on?
Hmm.
And can I invest more in that?
Yep.
And can I use those things to help
Build
push
your
me
moments
through?
of joy.
Yes,
It's your joy basket.
yes. The joy basket. Beautiful.
Mm.
Sexy.
Rosemary, the name of the book is, it's called Addiction to Perfection.
Addiction to Perfection is the name of the book by Marion Woodman. And we're going to use it to integrate the goodness into our lives and try to get what we want and be a little happier
Yeah.
out there and have a little control over what we want.
The right kind of control.
The right kind of control.
Yeah.
Control with what we would want,
Yeah.
boundaries and this and that, and enjoying it. Basically, figuring out how we're going to experience joy exactly as who we are without
Yeah.
having to put on any masks or anything.
Ooh, time to
How
get
about that?
naked.
Giggly, giggly. All right, you guys,
All
thank you
right.
so much for coming. Rosemary, thanks for hanging out with us
Yes.
this time. We're
Next
going to
time we'll
do
see
Zoom
you.
next time. We're
Yeah.
going to do Zoom. Everybody's going to be on. We'll make this right. All right. Good
All
night,
right.
everybody.
Ciao.